This story is about a small town of Dalton Grove, which consisted of very hardworking and cheerful people living together as a community. It was a kind of place where everyone knew your name, and crime consisted mostly of stolen lawn ornaments and teenagers sneaking beer from local gas station. But something changed after the circus came in. Dusk settled over the sleepy town of Dalton Grove, casting long shadows across empty streets and darkened storefronts. A rusted sign being the first sign. It appeared overnight, nailed to a telephone pole by the library, which said, "The Grinding Brothers Traveling Circus, one night only." No one had heard of them. The nearest big top hadn't visited in years. And this one had no website, no social media, just a blood red poster with a wide-mouthed clown grinding too hard. Despite the unease some felt, the children were excited. A circus was a novelty. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, families filled the makeshift fairgrounds at the edge of the town, just past Miller's Creek. The tents were strange, patched, faded canvas in crimson and charcoal black, the poles crooked as if erected by unsteady hands. Carnies loomed silently in shadows, their eyes sunken and their skin pallid. But it was the clown everyone remembered. He introduced himself with a shout and a cartwheel. "Call me Chuckles," he said. His voice sounded like broken glass over a megaphone. He wore a traditional clown suit, yellow with red polka dots. But there was something wrong with the proportions. Something too long about his limbs, too sharp about his teeth. Children cried at his approach. Dogs growled or whimpered and backed away. He juggled knives, swallowing them, pulling them out of his ear with a pop. He plucked flowers from thin air and turned them to ash in his palms. No one could say how the trick was done. At the end of the night, he vanished in a cloud of smoke. The next morning, a boy was missing. Kevin Myers, about 8 years old, was last seen walking home from the circus with his parents. He had lingered behind, chasing a balloon that bobbed unnaturally along the sidewalk, always just out of reach. By the time his mother turned around, he was gone. Police scoured the woods, the creek, even the old grain mill. No blood, no tracks. Just one yellow balloon tied to the Myers mailbox, with a smiley face drawn in what looked like rust. The town tried to stay calm, but unease burrowed in like a tick. The circus packed up and disappeared that same morning. No trucks, no fanfare. It was just gone, as if it had never been there at all. Except the poster remained, flapping in the wind. A week passed, then more began to vanish. Jessica Carter, a local dog walker, found the first body. It was her German Shepherd, Rocco, gutted and left posed like a circus trick. Front legs raised like a bear mid-dance, eyes wide in terror. On the front porch of the nearest house, a red shoe sat neatly beside a child's drawing. Stick figures beneath a big red tent. A clown looming behind with jagged teeth and black holes for eyes. A few nights later, high schooler Lyle Carter vanished while sneaking beer behind the football bleachers. All they found out was his varsity jacket, soaked in something red and sticky, and a balloon tied to the goalpost. It had started to snow. Sheriff Miller called in the state police, but their help was limited. No signs of forced entry, they said. No patterns. Could be an animal, or a person dressed as an animal. They didn't say it aloud, but everyone was thinking it in their mind. It was the clown. Old Miss Grady, who ran the town's antique shop, spoke up after Lyle's disappearance. She insisted she'd seen something like this before, 50 years back in another town. A clown, a traveling circus, disappearances. She claimed it came every generation, 50 years between cycles, feeding off small towns that no one would miss. They called it the Grinding Man. She whispered, eyes wild behind Coke bottle glasses, wasn't human, wore skin like a mask, had too many teeth, could twist itself into a child's voice or your mama's laugh. Most dismissed her as senile, but a few listened, and those few began to board up windows, hung crosses on doorways, started burning old toys and dolls. They knew something was wrong with the town. Something had slipped in, wearing face paint and ruffles. The circus came back 2 weeks later. No one saw it arrive, but there it stood, under a blood-orange moon at the edge of the woods. Taller now, more twisted, its entrance yawning like an open wound. This time, no one went willingly, but several children said they heard the music at night. Circus tunes played backward, softly, like whispers through the walls. Some even claimed they saw Chuckles outside their window waving. Sheriff Miller and a small group of volunteers approached the circus grounds, weapons drawn, but they didn't come back. Only Deputy Roberts returned, staggering into 2 hours later, covered in blood and muttering nonsense. He died in the hospital 2 days later, having chewed off his own tongue. All he left was a single sentence, scribbled in his hospital bed. A guy named Josh Moore, a local mechanic and a father of two, who decided enough was enough. His daughter had gone missing that morning. Armed with a shotgun and a crucifix, he made his way to the circus alone. The town watched from their windows as he stepped through the flaps of the big top. What he saw inside broke his mind. The inside was impossibly large. Miles of twisting corridors, red and white striped walls that pulsed like flesh. The floor was sticky, and the air smelled of burnt sugar and rotting meat. There were cages, mirrors, screaming that echoed from nowhere, and in the center ring stood Chuckles, grinding, face painted too thick, his eyes pits of void. "Want to see a magic trick?" he asked. Josh fired, hitting the clown in the chest. Chuckles laughed. Then he unfolded, limbs cracking as he grew taller, arms stretching like vines, mouth splitting wider until it reached from ear to ear, rows of needle teeth glistening. Josh screamed and ran. He never spoke again. He lived, yes, but only physically. He sat in a rocking chair on his porch until he died 3 months later. Eyes never blinking, hands clutching a balloon string with nothing attached. With more missing, 12 by then, the town turned to Miss Grady. She told them stories of the original Grinding Man, how it was not of this world, not bound by time or space, how it thrived on fear, particularly the kind born in children's hearts. It became what scared them most. A clown, a monster, a shadow in the closet. She explained that fire was the only thing that drove it away, even temporarily. So they all made a plan. They gathered torches, Molotov gas cans. A dozen of them marched to the circus grounds on the third night after the last disappearance. The tent welcomed them like a mouth. They set it ablaze. The fire took immediately. Flames danced across the canvas, shrieking noises echoing from inside. Inhuman, high-pitched, like children and animals crying out at once. Balloons burst overhead. Smoke rolled into the sky, turning it black. And then Chuckles walked out, burning, laughing like a maniac. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He smiled as his flesh bubbled and peeled. One of the volunteers shot him 3 times in the face. He collapsed. By the morning, the circus was gone. No ashes, no debris, just scorched earth and trail of red footprints that ended at the creek. Dalton Grove never recovered. Most families moved away. The town shrank into near nothingness. The Roberts, the Moores, the Carters, they all left or died. But every so often, on certain nights, people claim that they hear laughter in the wind, see red balloons floating across empty fields, find clown footprints in fresh snow. No one speaks of Chuckles anymore, but his poster clings to that old telephone pole by the library, weather-worn but legible, which reads, "The Grinding Brothers Traveling Circus, one night only." And below, in fading ink, someone has scrawled, "You can't kill what's already smiling."